Okay, so this is part 3. So hello everyone and 7L. I'm going to be showing you how to use Blender 3.4 this time. So let's go into Blender. So everyone else in 7L, you can watch this video if you like. I don't know how to get my channel, but let's not worry about that. But let's just go into Blender. So guys, the first thing I want to talk about is this section here about all these tabs. You can scroll through them and find them. So the first thing you have is this little Blender icon, and then you have three different sections and one system section, which is like a pointer property. Then guys, if you go to splash screen, that will actually show the intro screen like this thing. You can select any files. You can also select, and there's like some options here. So if you press it again, you have the About Blender section. I'm not really sure what that is. So the About Blender section, it tells you the actual the version. So for this example, we're using Blender version 3.4. So the date it released, guys, it was 19th of December 2022 at 5 o'clock. So it says Blender is a free software licensed under the GNU General Public License. So you have the release notes, credits, license, Blender website, Blender store, and development fund. The next thing you want to talk about is this. The next thing is install application template. So if I look at install that, you can actually like look at how many of them are, how many like the templates. So you have it like this section here. The next thing is the system section. You can press reload scripts. I think that does anything. Let's try that again. I'm not pretty sure that it's done. Let's try that again. So if I go let's go system and reload scripts. It takes its time. So let's try memory statistics. I don't think that does anything. Let's try debug menu. So here's the debug menu. It has this. So if you like added a value, I'll say maybe, let's try adding a value of 16 and press OK. But I don't think we can see anything. So it says, for more, I don't know much about that, but let's just talk. So if you have so the next thing I want to take a look at is this edit section, or file section, and you have this list of things that you can select. The first thing I want to take a look at is the new section. Now you can access it. Now guys, you can access new from the file section by pressing file, left clicking file, and press new. Then you have 5 different tabs here. So you have the general tab, as that's the tab we're right now on, it's default. You have the 2D animation tab that will open up in like a template, so if I press it, you have the 2D animation tab. You can design anything you want it. You have the 2D full canvas section, so you can also type anything in here. Yeah, right. You have the compositing tab, and you have the rendering tab. Okay, let's go back to general. So let's look at that. So if we go file, then you have sculpting, which has a little sculpting and a shading tab. So there's a sculpting tab just right here. And you could sculpt anything you like here. So file, new, and then you have VFX, which is a really helpful tool you guys use. So you have the motion tracking section, the masking section, the compositing section, or the rendering section. So if you go motion tracking, let's just minimize this so we can see. So guys, you have these 3 tabs. So guys, right now you have these 3 tabs. So this is the movie clip. So this is the movie clip editor. This is also the movie clip editor. But this one is in clip mode, which is when you add your clip and you can mask or track it. This is the dope sheet. That's for your timeline. That's for the timeline. You can scroll through anything you want, and it will also copy this timeline down here. So let's jump back to the first frame. And let's minimize this. And you have the 3D view as well. 3D viewport. And then you have these tabs. The masking section, you have 3 tabs again. This is the movie clip editor. This is the timeline. And this is the dope sheet. And this is the compositor. If you go to the compositing section, this is just a compositor. The rendering section has the image editor, which is this thing here down here. Let's go back to general so we can see. The next thing you have is video editing. So that means you can edit all your videos, and this is your file browser. This one is your video sequence editor, and this one is also a video sequence editor. And if you go to rendering, that's the same as the last few versions. So now we're back in the general tab. So the next thing I want to take a look at is this edit section. So you have an undo section. So that's for if you want to, like, if you duplicate this cube, but if you don't want to do it and you accidentally have done it, you can press edit and you can press undo. And then the next thing you have is the redo section. So that means if you want to do that again, just press redo. The undo I've made, like, for undo you can just press Ctrl Z. But for redo, you can press redo, or you can use the shortcut, which is Shift Ctrl Z. That means that will redo the object that you have duplicated. Let's delete that. So if you go undo history, you have the delete section, you have duplicate object, and you have original. The repeat last section, that means when you like repeated the last action. I don't know what that did. So there's a repeat history, delete. Let's show that. Sorry about that noise, but adjust last operation, you can press F9, so you can press Fn function F9. Let's press function F9 again. Let's try just F9. Let's just try F9. I don't know what that did. Then the next thing you have is menu search, so you can press the function F3 as your shortcut. Normally before it was spacebar, but now it's F3. You have all these tabs down here, so it goes, I think, in alphabetical order. I'm not pretty sure. You can scroll these all the way down. Such a long day. The next thing you have is operator search, so that means that will search like your operator. I'm not pretty sure, but that's fine. You have the rename active item, so if you press function F2, you can rename your cube, you can rename your object. So I'm going to call this, so for example, I want to call this QWERTY, so that's on the keyboard. Press enter, and there we go, it's named QWERTY. So let's undo that operation. The next thing you have is batch rename, so that's Control F2. I'm not pretty sure what that does, but let's try. I don't know. It's not working. I don't know. Let's lock object mode. So let's try. Okay, so let's lock it, and then if I try moving it, it's still doing the same thing. I don't know. You have the preferences section, which I showed you in the last few videos. Probably not, but if you want. The next thing you have is this render section. So that's all these options for rendering. So you have a render image section that will render your whole image that you like. So guys, if you press render image, that will render the whole video and the whole image that you have used when you were tracking and also when you were masking. Or you can use the shortcut, which is F12. The next option you have is render animation. So that's for when you like when you were doing a video clip, and then if you didn't, and if you wanted to render it out, you can just press that button, or you can press Ctrl F12 if you tracked it or masked it or composited it. The next thing you have is render audio. I'm not pretty sure what that does. The next thing you have is view render. So if you press F11, let's try F11. So this is the whole image that you want to do that. And then you have view animation. Just Control F11. I don't think you can do that. Here we go, it says Blender Animation Player. Let's try getting rid of this tab so it can work. Okay, let's get rid of this tab. Then then you have a lock interface button. Let's disable that now. The next option you have is window. So that means, you have all these options for the whole window. So you have a new window. That means that will add another Blender window to the screen. Then you have a new main window. That means that will add it with its own workspace and scene. You have a toggle window full screen. Let's try that. Now that actually toggles the full screen. Now let's not toggle the full screen. The next option you have is next workspace. So if you press Control Page Down, let's try that. Control Page Down. I think that works on the keyboard. So if you press it, it goes onto the next workspace, or you can just select the new workspace. That's what you can do. So you have edit mode. Yeah, that's fine. The next option you have is previous workspace. That means I will cycle. That will go to the previous one that you did. That will go to the last one, which is actually one. The next one you have is show status bar. So if you disable it, that means I'll disable this whole section, the region, context menu, the pan view. So if I get show, not show, that means I can't see it. But if I do it again, I'll be able to see it. The next thing you have is save screenshot and save screenshot editor. I don't know what that does. The last option you have is toggle system console. So that means I will open up the toggle system. That means I will open up the system console and you can check your errors or everything else. So if you enable it, it will show you like everything you did with this thing. Let's not toggle system console for this example. The next option you have is the help section. So you have like the manuals and everything. So that will help if you need some support with Blender. So this is the manual. So the first option you have is manual. So that means I will open up the Blender manual so you can know how to use it. So this is Blender 3.4 reference manual. So this is like the API documentation. But okay. So you'll have all these apps here, like the user interface, editors, scenes and objects. And it's like everything, the modeling, anything else. You can also go down to Grease Pencil, compositing, anything. The next option you have is tutorials. So if you go to this tutorials option, you'll be able to. That means if you don't know how to use Blender, you can access this. And there's first steps with Blender 2.8. So it will have actually all of this. The next option you have is the support section. That means if you need any help with Blender and if you want to access it with the website, you can press that. There's all these. The next option you have is user communities. I'm not pretty sure what to do with user communities, so I'm not pretty sure. The next option you have is developer community. Let me check how much I dug my video. Oh no, I only have 2 more minutes. Let me just not try using them. So here's the forum. I'm not pretty sure what to do with that. The next option you have is Python API reference. So that's for the documentation of how to use the reference for scripting. It's like API documentation. And you have developer documentation, operator cheat sheet. Let's look at what operator list.txt text block. I'm not pretty sure what that means. There's a report a bug or a save system info. So the next thing I want to take a look at is these tabs over here. So you have a layout tab that will actually show the actual thing that's displayed, how it's laid out. The modeling section is for your modeling of all your things and everything. There's no timeline. The next option you have is sculpting, which is a really good tool to help like doing your sculpting to draw something. The next option you have is UV editing. I'm not pretty sure what that means. The texture paint tab, if you select this thing, you can paint your object. If you have a shading tab, so you have a shading tab, so that means you have the layout tab, you have the file browser tab, and then you have the image editor tab, and you have your shader editor tab. So I think that's the sphere. I'm not pretty sure. The animation tab is for animating your objects and anything else, like if you want it, and adding keyframes. The rendering tab is for your rendering and every object that wants to be rendered, and you can also do any movie clips. The next option you have is compositing. That means that's really useful for making a movie clip, get things removed or get things added, anything. The geometry node section, I'm not pretty sure what that does, but you have this geometry node editor. It's that one. And the final tab we have is the scripting. Then we have the scripting tab is for your scripting and every text editor writing. You can text anything. The final option you have is this plus button here. That means I will add a workspace. So you have the